So let me ask you something uncomfortable. Have you ever noticed that the more capable you become, the heavier leadership feels? Not because you're failing, but because you can handle more. Here's the paradox: the very thing that made you successful can quietly become the reason you stall. Capability becomes congestion. It's like upgrading from a 2-lane road to a 6-lane highway, but forgetting to redesign the traffic lights. Now everything moves faster until it doesn't. Then it locks. That's what happens at higher levels of leadership. And most smart leaders misinterpret it. They think, oh, I should be able to handle this. I've managed more before. Or why does this feel heavier now? So let's slow that down. What if nothing is wrong with you? What if your leadership expanded, but your decision architecture didn't? So let's jump into it. I worked with an executive director recently. Brilliant, strategic, respected. She wasn't confused about her vision, but she was carrying strategic expansion, staffing transitions, public visibility, revenue targets, internal culture shifts, and board expectations. And she said something I will never forget. She said, I know exactly what needs to happen. I just can't move. That's not incompetence, that's congestion. When you're capable, people give you more. It kind of reminds me of that verse that says, to whom much is given, much is required. Yes, I have come to understand that verse very well. Have you? Where you have more authority, more visibility, more decisions, more problems. And because you can handle it, you don't say no. But here's the part nobody tells high capacity leaders: capability increases inflow, but without filtration, it creates overload. Let me ask you this: where has your competence earned you more weight than your system can process? Hmm. So pause right there. Let that question sit with you, because congestion is earned. Did you hear that? It's earned. Think about an air traffic controller. Their job isn't to fly the planes, they're not the pilots, it's to sequence them. If 30 planes show up at once and there's no sequencing system, it doesn't matter how skilled the controller is. You don't fix that by saying, focus harder. You redesign the landing pattern. Many executives are flying planes and controlling traffic at the same time. You're the strategist, the decision maker, the final authority, the bottleneck. Not because you want to be, but because you're capable. Capability without sequencing becomes congestion, and congestion feels like burnout. But it's not burnout, it's structural collision. So let's jump in even closer. Here's where the shift happens. Inside the executive decision architecture model, we don't ask, how do you become more productive? That's not the question. Instead, we ask, where has your capability outgrown your structure? Because here's the truth: at higher levels of leadership, you are not rewarded for doing more. You are rewarded for filtering better. One client came into a 4-hour session overwhelmed by multiple initiatives: expansion, rebranding, hiring, revenue stabilization. She wasn't disorganized, she was expansive. We didn't add productivity tools, we removed lanes, we staged growth. Within weeks, clarity returned, not because she tried harder, but because congestion was removed. So let me ask you this next question: what initiative feels urgent right now that may simply be out of sequence? Sit with that for a moment. Take 30 seconds, in fact, and think about this. Where in your leadership are you saying yes because you can, or holding decisions that should be delegated, or carrying authority that needs structure? Congestion doesn't announce itself loudly. No, it doesn't. It shows up as delayed execution, mental fatigue, avoidance of strategic moves, irritability, overanalysis. And the dangerous part? You assume you just need to tighten up. But congestion does not respond to discipline, it responds to architecture, structure. I've had leaders say after working together, I walked in unsure of how to move forward and walked out with a clear, actionable plan. That's not magic. That's filtration and sequencing. Another client shared that after restructuring for decision flow, her messaging sharpened, her revenue stabilized, and her stress dropped. Not because we fixed her, but because we filtered her. The difference is profound. High capacity leaders do not need more mindset work, they need structural relief. So here's the thing, here's the confrontation. If you continue expanding without redesigning your decision architecture, congestion will follow you to every new level. New revenue, more congestion. New visibility, more congestion. New authority, you guessed it, more congestion. Unless you redesign. Serious leaders don't wait until collapse. They redesign when friction begins. And friction is actually feedback, not failure. And so, if this conversation feels personal, good. That's what it was supposed to do. Because congestion doesn't resolve itself, it compounds. Inside From Chaos to Clarity, a live decision architecture session for corporate executives, we go beyond awareness. In that 4-hour virtual session, we identify congestion points, we filter decision categories, we sequence expansion, and we design a 90-day execution map. You don't walk away with inspiration, you walk away with structure. If your capability has expanded faster than your architecture, it may be time to redesign. Serious leaders redesign. They don't just endure the congestion. I'll see you inside.